Welcome to inspireWord. We're excited for everybody to be here. Thanks for tuning in. We got a really awesome guest tonight that we are super excited about. Ryan Bomberger of the Radiance Foundation. He's going to get into his story and tell us about his inspiration and what inspired him not only to start it, but his backstory is also super incredible. I've been one of the fortunate people, many people that have got to see him speak live. So him being here tonight is a real treat for me personally and everybody in our entire network. First, we want to thank Catholic Order of Foresters, Solidarity Health Share, and Charity Mobile. If you'd like to visit any of their websites, we're going to put that in the chat area right to the right there where you can access. Please visit our sponsors. They are so supportive to CatholicSpeakers.com, the talent that we represent and work with, and they're just a big reason why we can have these types of awesome conversations from their living room to yours. So without further ado, please make sure that you also chat us questions throughout the conversation tonight. Ryan and I definitely want to catch those and answer what's on your mind. And so we will bring Ryan in right now. Ryan Bomberger, welcome to inspireWord. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Hey, it's great to be with you, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, listen, I know you're taking evening away from family to sit down with us, and thank you for inviting our entire network into your living room, kind of behind the scenes, to get to see you. You know, I have to say something really quick. Your hair is way better than mine. I mean, my mom coined this the COVID cut because I haven't seen a barber in 60 plus days.
Oh my God.
To grow out like yours.
Well, mine, if I actually let it out, it would be an afro right now.
Oh,
that's the beauty of gel, man.
There you go. There you go. Well, Ryan, for those we had so many people messaging us today, excited to see that you were going to be on inspireWord. inspireWord has now reached over 500,000 people. Our goal is to go to 1 million. So everyone watching, please share this with a friend. We will also be posting this conversation on inspireword.com for you to share with your family and friends that didn't get to see Ryan live. But Ryan, because for the few people that are tuning in that may not be familiar with your backstory, could you start with that?
Sure. I guess it's important to understand, what motivates somebody to be involved in any particular cause. But for me, it was actually how I came to be, my own backstory. I'm the 1%, you could say, that is used to justify 100% of abortions. So my birth mom experienced the horror and violence of rape. And despite that, she courageously not only chose life for me, but she gave me the incredible gift of adoption. Wow. So I grew up in a I don't know, relatively small family, I guess, of 15, and 9 of us were adopted. 9 other siblings. 10 of us were adopted. I was the first one, and obviously it went well. So they just adopted another child, but it really is remarkable to grow up in a family like that, where we're white and black and Native American, Vietnamese, just a mixture, and loved by 2 parents who just wanted to love those that the world often says they're unplanned, they're going to be unwanted, they're going to be unloved, and they shattered that myth. So that's my backstory: conceived in rape, but yet adopted in love. And so that's my backstory. That's my motivation.
It's just unbelievable. So let's continue with that. For your motivation, what kind of issues do you touch on when you talk to people, not only when you're public speaking, but also through the foundation? And you obviously talked about how that drives you. So what are the types of issues you touch on? And how do you do that in an effective way in such a hot culture that we live in these types of issues?
Absolutely. Well, my wife and I founded the Radiance Foundation 10 years ago. My wife, Bethany, my favorite woman on the planet. We're adopted parents, by the way. We have 4 children, 2 of whom are adopted. So that's also hugely motivating. But it leads us to address a myriad of social issues, all in the context of God-given purpose. So we're primarily focused on illuminating that every human life has purpose, irrevocable, equal worth. And then we talk about these issues that are all inextricably tied to that in the context of God-given purpose. So we talk about, of course, the fundamental issue of life, because if you're not alive, nothing else matters. So we talk about abortion, we talk about adoption, we talk about fatherlessness, poverty, the disintegration of family. We talk about LGBT activism and sexuality and issues of gender confusion. We talk about judicial activism, free speech, religious liberty, all of these issues, the easy ones that everyone's comfortable talking about. So, that we engage in, because 1, we're motivated by love. We're motivated by by the fact that God created us all and he loves us. And so out of that love for God, it should naturally flow love for people. And that's what motivates us. 1 Corinthians 13:6 says, love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices in the truth. So that's why we do what we do through the Radiance Foundation.
That's awesome. And for folks right now that are, they're struggling, I mean, the whole point of inspireWord is to inspire people to get messages from their favorite public speakers, authors like yourself. We're going to get into your book in a little bit. And your wife came out with a book I heard about. Can't wait for you to talk about. But how do you achieve your goals, especially when you have to overcome challenges, Ryan, when you're achieving goals, especially the type of work you do? Again, it's such a hot topic, and communicating it is so important, and the right way to communicate issues of is so important. How do you achieve your goals, and how do you lead your foundation to do so?
Well, my wife, just to give a little background, my wife was a teacher for over 10 years in public and private schools in both suburban and urban schools. So her background is education. I worked as a creative director for over 10 years in the ad agency world and in media production. And so what we try to do through the Radiance Foundation is combine those things. We want to creatively address these issues, but equip people to feel confident to talk about these culture shifting issues. Because a lot of times Christians don't know how to engage. They don't want to start the conversation. They don't want to engage in the conversation. And so the challenge that I have as a creative is, how do you take these really complex issues and, I don't know, can you distill it into a meme? And that's really what I love to do. We create a lot of original content, whether they're videos, memes, fact sheets. We write a lot of op-eds. But the way that we do what we do through the Radiance Foundation, we do it through our multimedia campaigns. We do a lot of live presentations. We keynote about 60 events a year across the country and abroad. And then we also have these creative ad campaigns, whether billboard campaigns, social media campaigns. Right. Then we do what we call fearless factivism. It's our journalism. And the fourth element of how we achieve our goals is just our community outreaches. For instance, we have one called Sally's Lambs. It's our outreach to birth moms who choose adoption over abortion. And so these are the ways that we try to tackle these culture shifting issues and equip people to not only engage, but help to change hearts and minds.
That's awesome. We're going to switch over real quick. We got a message that came in through one of our platforms. A Harold in Idaho wants to know if you've ever been threatened. And if so, if you could tell us a couple stories or a story about being threatened because of the nature of the work you do. And actually, it's a great question. Thanks, Harold, because that moves into the question that we had down for you, Ryan, about pushback. Have you gotten any pushback, or what kind of pushback have you gotten, like from, let's just say, the miniature organization known as Planned Parenthood?
Let's just say, yes, we've gotten a little bit of pushback, like a whole lot of pushback. I mean, basically, the first campaign that we launched as a fledgling 501c3, where we were based out of Atlanta, Georgia, we're now based in Northern Virginia. But the first campaign we launched actually was the first public ad campaign to deal with abortion's hugely disproportionate impact in the Black community. It was called TooManyAborted.com. And so we placed these billboards, about 60 billboards in Atlanta. I mean, the pushback was insane.
Wow.
The media coverage was out of control. New York Times, CNN, ABC, I mean, online, it was everywhere. And I was being accused of being a racist. Hello, whatever. And that somehow a campaign that was talking about the racism of Planned Parenthood and the eugenic history, the racist eugenic history of Planned Parenthood, somehow made the people who wanted to save Black lives of Black mothers and their children, we were somehow the racists. So yeah, we got pushback. We've gotten death threats, in person even. So people get a little unhinged. I mean, truth does that to people.
Right.
And there is an aversion to truth. There are plenty of people who just have no use for it, and they do everything they can to fight it. Planned Parenthood, of course, is one of the largest entities in the United States that fights truth every single day. They held a bloggers conference and a journalist conference after our first campaign to figure out how to message and to counter that message. Then they also created what I call a crockumentary. They call it a documentary. It was insane. It was a 20-minute long infomercial featuring African Americans extolling the greatness of Planned Parenthood. But Planned Parenthood is the leading killer of Black lives. The insanity of it all. So yes, we've gotten crazy pushback, but what's more important is we've gotten lots of love. We've gotten lots of support. We partner with a lot of different organizations. We get emails about people choosing life because of the campaigns that they've seen. And that's worth all the crazy, insane pushback. Oh, you've even gotten sued
Absolutely.
by the NAACP. I mean, I don't know how much time I have to go into that, but we were sued by the NAACP because I parodied the once venerable civil rights organization's name. I called them the National Association for the Abortion of Colored People because of their radical pro-abortion stance. And so they sued me, they sued the Radiance Foundation. Short story.
Wow.
They lost in federal court. We were defended by Alliance Defending Freedom and we won. Free speech case. So yeah, lots of pushback.
God bless you.
We push back against the pushback.
That's right. I mean, it's crazy. God bless you for the work you're doing, because you're out on the front lines, and folks in your position normally do get sued. It's becoming a common theme, where they're trying to take away not only your American right, but religious freedom all the way down the line. Ryan, you made some good points earlier. Could you share with us maybe some interesting things or unique things the Radiance Foundation might be doing when it comes to reaching not only the other side, right, the people that are against being pro-life, but also what would be the important key pieces to reaching pro-lifers, which sometimes in itself can be challenging?
Well, yeah, but my story alone is something that really brings down walls. It's kind of, I speak on a lot of college campus, for instance, whether it's Harvard, Princeton, Columbia Law School, Penn State, University of Notre Dame, the list goes on and on. And my story is a great entryway into talking about this issue, because I'm that tangible example. I'm that fringe example that people always go to. Anytime you talk about abortion, it inevitably goes to that question, well, what about rape? But I'm part of that answer. I'm part of that tangible response. And so in ways, whether we create videos, in fact, there's one, if you go to radiance.life and you look at the videos on the front page, there's one called Life Has Purpose. And it lists all the things that I've been able to become in my life by the grace of God, because of my birth mom's courageous decision. And it's amazing how disarming it is to people. And so I get, pro-choice, pro-abortion activists who will come to events and afterward come up to me, not all of them, but some of them will come up to me and say, I wanted to hate you when I came here. Yeah. Wow, I never even heard things from that perspective. I've never seen things from that perspective. And so this is part of what we do. We do it through the creative media, whether the billboard campaigns as well, our books, like my book, Not Equal, where Not Equal Civil Rights Gone Wrong, where I address these issues. And so as a creative, what I find so important is that as pro-lifers, we have to use the emotional, yes, and we have to do a really good job fusing it with the evidential. See, the other side always has the emotional part, and they're really good at that, but they don't have the evidence. They don't have the facts, the statistics, the science. They don't have that. We have all of that, and we just have to become better storytellers where we fuse these things together. And this is part of what we try to do through the Radiance Foundation.
I love that. You're bringing the creative side, which is creativity, the art side, Hollywood, music, you name it. It's taken over America anyway. We idolize that stuff. So the fact that you're trying to take that element and infuse it into something so powerful and so worthwhile. Thank you for doing that. I mean, it's just awesome what you're doing over there, Ryan. Real quick, let's jump over. I want to talk a little bit more about your book, but your wife has a book that she recently just wrote, if I understand that correctly, for kids. Oh, what a husband! Yeah.
Funny thing, happen to have it right here.
Yeah.
Pro-life kids.
Tell us all about it. There's tons of parents watching.
This book, honestly, is a response to so many parents coming up to us and saying, how do I even address this issue with my child? And some of them are talking about their teens. We would have some parents who would say they didn't want to take their teens to the March for Life because they felt like it was too much. I'm thinking, oh my word, the world is talking to our kids about every issue under the sun. How are we not addressing this from a very young age? And so this book, which is just beautifully illustrated, I mean, it's incredible. My wife authored this, and it uses rhyme to teach children a profoundly pro-life worldview. Wow. And one of the things, I love this part, this page says, it doesn't matter your size or your age, you have equal value whatever the stage, and you see all the different stages. I mean, there's nothing out there like this whatsoever. And the whole point is that we have to reach our children before a broken world reaches them. I mean, why are we waiting to teach them what already exists in them naturally? A child is actually naturally pro-life. They have to be taught that it's okay. They have to be misled to believe that it's okay to harm an unborn child, to harm a mother. And so this is one of the ways that we do that through Pro-Life Kids. I mean, and the response has been really amazing. It's prolifekids.com if people want to get a copy of that book. But we're really passionate about equipping not just adults, but equipping children. And my wife, who she's just amazing, but she often says, if we started at this young age, I'm talking K, even pre-K, if we started at the young age teaching children a pro-life worldview, we wouldn't have to do so much work trying to change the minds of adults.
Right.
Because they would already have this so solidified in their heart and their mind. And with our 4 children, we teach them not just, I mean, we teach them what it means to be pro-life, but we have them really examine their faith. I mean, a child who has a well-examined and deeply examined faith is not going to all of a sudden lose it the moment they step into, college, for instance. And this is important. You start at a young age and reinforce what is already naturally there.
That's awesome. If you're just joining us with Ryan Bomberger right now, the Radiance Foundation, talking about the most important person in the world to him, his wife, Bethany Bomberger, just came out with a kid's book, a Pro-Life Kids. Ryan, where can people find that book and your book again?
prolifekids.com is the website for that book. And of course, they want to get a copy of my book, Not Equal, Civil Rights Gone Wrong. They can just go to radiance.life and you can follow links there. Either book, you can go to radiance.life and get them. But they really do offer just a great pro-life tool and resource for children, and my book for teens and adults. It's just our passion. So
that's great. Well, that'll be a great resource for everybody watching. Now, Ryan, when it comes to the COVID-19 situation we have here, where folks are against challenges they were not expecting, we're hunkered down in houses, et cetera, what would you say would be some of your greatest victories? And when I ask that, maybe give us some inspiration on one story that you overcame, like monumental challenges, or that might have seemed like there was no light at the end of the tunnel, whether it's with your family or your foundation. What would you say would be 1 or 2 of your greatest victories so far with this, since you've embarked on this awesome initiative?
Okay, there's so many. I can roll a long list. Yeah. There goes. But there are some that are really key. One of the main things that I would just highlight as a victory is actually probably something really simple, in that when we started 10 years ago, Bethany and I didn't know anything about Planned Parenthood. We didn't know anything about the abortion industry. We didn't know anything about the history. Wow. And so through this, it's been a victory for us that we've been able to educate ourselves and then be a resource to other people. Some people feel like it's overwhelming. How do you know all that stuff? And so, we would dive in and dig deep into all of this history so that we could understand the present. And so for us, those were personal victories. More importantly, the victories of saving lives. I'll remember actually during our first billboard campaign, our TooManyAborted.com campaign, we had someone write to us from Atlanta. Her name was Yvonne. And I will never forget this, because I was exhausted. We were being attacked. It was the first time that I experienced the true ferocity of fake news. And there was so much on us. We were getting death threats and all this. And all of a sudden we get this email, and she said, I saw a news story on your campaign, and I already have a child, and I had already determined I was going to have an abortion. And watching your campaign, I went on the website and I read through the material, and I realized that there was help. There's a pregnancy center local, and you pointed that out to me, and I'm not going to have an abortion. I just want to let you know, and thank you. And I remember we were thoroughly exhausted, thinking that, God, why are people attacking us? We're trying to do something good. And we get this email, which was a reminder. Even that one individual, just Yvonne, would have been enough for all of the craziness that we were going through in that first campaign. So there were victories. I mentioned the NAACP. That was huge. They were trying to bankrupt us.
Wow.
They were trying to, I mean, a civil rights organization trying to sue a brown guy for exercising one of my most basic civil rights, free speech. And for 2 years, we didn't know if we were going to be completely bankrupt or not. That was terrifying. But the whole thing is, people sometimes feel like you need this huge crowd. You need to have all this money, neither of which we had. You need to have all these things in order to have an impact. But courage doesn't need a crowd. It just needs a conscience. It
Right.
needs conviction. And when you move forward with that, there's going to be blessing. There is going to be, it may take 2 years. It may take 5. Maybe it'll take 3 days. You never know. But you will never know what the result will be if you shrink back and you never engage the darkness.
Right. No, absolutely. And, as you're talking, Ryan, I love asking pro-life leaders and even faith-based leaders, which we all are called to be in our own way. What surprises, come at them? And there's stories that you sometimes just can't make up because of the nature of the work you're doing. It's spiritual. There's a real spiritual battle going on. Could you kind of give us an inside look, that everyone watching, kind of a behind the scenes on maybe some surprises that have come your way that just blew you out of the water that you just couldn't even believe, whether good or bad?
I like good. So I'll give you, actually, we did an event last summer. My wife and I spoke at an event about marriage. It was Adoption, Marriage, and Mayhem was the title of the presentation. And at the beginning of it, one of the people who was involved, I guess, on the board of that organization came up to me. And even before he began talking, he was already tearing up. And he was explaining to me that he had heard me speak previously. It was years prior. And as a result of that, he and his wife were so moved toward adoption. And he's crying, and then I'm, being the sappy dad that I am, and I'm crying, and I'm thinking, God, we never know immediately. We often don't know immediately what our actions, what our words will do, and how that will resonate with someone. And we oftentimes think, well, that person didn't immediately respond, or I didn't get this tangible feedback. Well, that's not really for us. And so I just remember hearing this, and my wife and I we're just completely in sync. So we're both crying at this. And I'm thinking, it could have been one of those many times where I'm like, I am so exhausted from travel. I'm so exhausted from trying to run a nonprofit. I didn't go to school to learn nonprofit work. I, was a marketing major, but it's those moments when you're reminded that this is not what I'm doing on my own strength. This is God. This is Philippians 4:13 in tangible form. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so these are the kinds of surprises where it's almost like God's subtly reminding us, or maybe not so subtly, like, your work is never in vain. Because that's exhausting. I mean, it's not easy to be hated by a lot of people. I'm just putting it out there. That's not easy. It's not easy to leave a job where I'm earning, 6 digits and then going down to 0 digits to start a nonprofit. But this life and serving the Lord is not an easy thing, but it's moments like that for me are just the surprises they're like little gifts from God.
You can't put a price on it. Yeah, that's what this is all about, is words like that of inspiration and helping everyone just kind of, remember the important things of life and what this life's all about. And it's completely, right, Brian, what you dedicated your life to. So God bless you for that. There's some other questions that came through on our platform. I'm just going to try and paraphrase, answer what you feel comfortable with, of course. But basically, there's some questions surrounding, at what point in your life did you learn that you were conceived by rape? And then at what point in your life did you feel or realize you were called to do the amazing work you're doing? I mean, we're talking to a guy that was conceived by rape, but is now one of the most forward, right in front of your face, I'm going to say famous pro-life leaders out there right now. So if you wouldn't mind touching on those things, however you feel, you want to take as deep as you want to take us.
Right. And that's a great question. It was actually, I was 13. I was in 8th grade and I was having a conversation. Let me just put it this way. I was a challenge for my parents. It wasn't until my late 20s when I realized, like, oh, I need to apologize to my parents. Like, for years, I need like an apology tour for 5 years. But I was a handful, just like some of my children are a handful for me. It's kind of the payback thing. Anyway, it was in a tense conversation, and it came out in that tense conversation. But my mom had thought that I understood it years prior as she tried to explain, but apparently I didn't understand what rape was. And so in this conversation at 13, which is already, your teenage years are already insane enough, tumultuous enough. And then all of a sudden, my entire backstory was rewritten in a moment. That was devastating to me. However, I was so loved by my parents, Henry and Andrea Bomberger. I love them like crazy. They are just, to me, the epitome of people who love Jesus. It was because I was loved that I didn't fall apart. And it was actually just 2 months later that I ended up doing a persuasion speech in 8th grade public school. And I did my speech on abortion. And I shared my story. And it really was that moment in 8th grade that I realized, as some of my classmates were tearing up, that I had a story.
Wow.
And I needed to tell it. Now, it would take years and years after that for me to understand fully how to use that story in creative ways. But it really was 8th grade. That was the catalyst moment for me.
That's unbelievable. I mean, the fact that you heard that, it's the grace of God, 8th grade, where you get that feeling, and now look at you, what you're doing now. And it's just awesome, Brian. We need more people in the world like you, and God obviously had a plan. And as the Catholic Church teaches, Christian Church teaches, there's 3 people normally involved when someone's conceived. The 2 people and God. So, he knows us before we're even born, and you weren't a mistake, man. He made you to be a warrior. Thank you for being that for all of us. I'm going to ask you, we're down to the 30 minutes here. I wish I could have you for another 30 minutes, but we'll be respectful of your time, and that's why people love these things are quick. I'm going to ask you 2 things in a minute after I go through our rant here. But one is, what inspiration are you going to take away from this whole lockdown with your family? You can use a worldly thing and then a spiritual thing. So what you learn with the family spiritual side, and then the worldly side, it could be funny, it could be whatever you like. But first, we want to take a moment to thank our sponsors again: Solidarity Health Share, Catholic Order of Foresters, and of course, Charity Mobile, the ProLife mobile company. Super excited to be sponsors and helping us out with bringing guys, leaders, pro-life leaders like Ryan Bomberger to your living room, where he's invited us into his to have this backdoor access and behind the scenes. So thank you to all of you for it. And please, conversation will be posted on inspireWord.com. Please go to our website, sign up on our mailing list, share the site with a friend. Tonight, we're challenging everyone watching, share inspireword.com with a friend, because this video, this conversation, we posted there forever for you to share with your friends, because Ryan's touched on a lot of hot topics tonight that'll probably help. So Ryan, what do you think about inspiration? What did your family learn spiritually and from a worldly perspective through all this COVID challenge?
Oh, wow. So many lessons to learn. Spiritually, I would say, look, the reality is when a pandemic happens, it really redirects our focus to what matters, and that's family. Who do people go home to? Family. Where do people stay? And, we're forced to stay in families. That's because family is the bedrock. And I love that, being able to spend time with my family, devotions, we've been able to, because we haven't had 1,000,001 distractions. So that's been a beautiful part of it. And spiritually, I work from home, so I am able to be with my kids so much more than those who are that have to go outside of the home to work. But it's been even more of a blessing to have this kind of time. Lots of family walks, lots of family talks. Yeah. So that's been great. And the worldly thing, I would say, look, who loves you more than family? Because you can be all crusty and all nasty all day long, and they will love you no matter what. Like, what? I haven't, wearing pajamas all day long. I'm like, that's the 4th day you've worn the same clothes. It's okay, because family loves you. So those are just so many lessons, but that's one of the things I appreciate. And even some of our close family who live nearby, and we've been able to spend time with them. Am I able to say that? Is that illegal? You eat social distancing.
Right.
Anyway, and they love you no matter what. Like, oh my word, you haven't shaved in 5 days. It's okay. Because in the end, family is the most important thing. God created it. God wanted us to flourish in families. And this has been such a powerful, powerful reminder of that.
Brian Bomberger, the Radiance Foundation, you literally are a walking miracle. Thank you for what you're doing, brother. Really, your backstory. Folks, please go to his website. please go to inspireword.com and share this conversation with friends. It's absolutely beyond inspirational what you're doing, Ryan. Thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. And we're definitely going to have you on again in the future if you would.
Awesome. Definitely would. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thank you.